Commando from 1985. So this film is directed by Mark Lester, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ray Dun Chong, Dan Hedaya, and Alyssa Milano. The IMDb plot summary is: a retired special forces colonel tries to save his daughter, who's abducted by his former subordinate. I guess it sounds kind of exciting. And this movie is the exact opposite of North by Northwest in the sense of it is incredibly dumb, stupid B movie. Very simple, like a plot that, I mean, is not even any more complex than that IMDb plot summary. That is all that it is. That is literally it. But for me, stupid and cheesy is something that has always been comforting for me. I'm a huge fan of B movies. There was a show on in the United States when I was growing up called Mystery Science Theater 3000 that basically was it's a comedy show where they would take an old movie from like the 30s or 40s. It was just a terrible B movie, and then they'd watch it and you'd see the cast watching the film and then just make fun of the film through the movie. And that, I mean, I grew up on that show and exposed me to like hundreds, maybe even thousands of just absolutely some of the worst movies ever made. But because the show, was a comedy show, and these movies do have, at least for me, some sort of they're endearing quality and how bad they are. So that was my gateway into bad movies. And this movie was a movie that I first saw. I mean, I can remember seeing it on a school trip we took in junior high down to New York, I think it was, on a bus. And it was like, what do you, for a bunch of like 14-year-old boys, what do you do to keep them calm? It was like a bunch of different movies. Actually, two of the other films we watched on that trip are my non-make-it list. But there was the first time I saw Commando. I'm like, this is like the greatest thing I've ever seen. I was a huge Arnold fan, and this is him at the height of his powers in the sense of he literally is just like an object in this movie. Terrible actor, but that's what makes it fun. Totally unbelievable, but that what makes it fun. Even from like the opening scene of this film is like, the score's playing and you see him doing all these like manly things. He's like carrying a log and he's like, cutting this, down a tree or whatever. And then all of a sudden it switches to like the score switches to this nice, like, fun score, and he's hanging out with his daughter, and then he's feeding some deer and they're eating ice cream together and like laughing. It's like the weirdest thing, but it's so funny.
And it's like a Havana sort of like score. Like,
yeah, it's a calypso steel drum music
score. I'm like, where are we?
Totally. Yeah, the score, I love this. James Horner, one of his early scores, just the fantastic score. I have that too and listen to it all the time. But yeah, just so ridiculous. And just the quotable lines too. I mean, this is actually something that's a theme through all three of my films, but just lines that I quote all the time. And just so many quotable one-liners, like I eat green berets for breakfast and I'm really hungry. And then he attacks the guy. Or remember when I promised to kill you last? I lied. And then he kills the guy. So those one-liners are just, again, give me comfort because they make me laugh. And this is a film that I've seen dozens and dozens of times. I had to put something on here that was incredibly cheesy and stupid because I enjoy so many of those types of movies when I just want to, like, again, turn my brain off. Which is a theme of a lot of the films on my list of like, yeah, look, I don't want to think too much about it because this movie's dumb, but I put it on and like I'm just I mean, that ending sequence where he's trying to get his daughter back and he goes down to some Central American country because they're who kidnapped him, and he storms this base essentially of where his daughter's being kidnapped, and he kills probably like 100 people, and I'm probably not even exaggerating that. Just walks in, just machine gunning them, and there are these scenes where it's like people are shooting at him. There's like 40 guys shooting at him, and he is literally just standing there, not getting shot, and just shooting back, and they're all falling dead. It's I mean, they've made fun of this in some of the Naked Gun movie, or not Naked Gun, sorry, Hot Shots movies later on, because it is so ridiculous. But yeah, that's just what this movie is, incredibly dumb, and I just always get a kick out of it, and it puts me in a great mood. In the end of the fight too, it's like Arnold, who's this is, I think, the movie where he might be the biggest once his mainstream. He is huge. He's huge. And the battle at the end is by this like sort of flabby Australian guy with like a chainmail shirt. It's like Arnold could kill him with one punch, but yet the movie makes it like, oh, this is the big confrontation between Arnold and the final big boss. And it's like, this is absolutely stupid. Like, he could take this guy in so many different ways, but the movie makes it seem like some grand big battle. And it's it's absolutely ridiculous. But I had to put Commando on my list, and
And not to mention the woman who's like, sure, I'll come along with you. I'll
oh
help you. I was
oh
like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah, no, yeah,
Hilarious.
because he kind of kidnaps her essentially. He takes her
Yeah,
car
but you
and
could
it
have left
oh,
after
I know.
that.
Yeah, in literally one scene, she goes from like, I hate, like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? No, take me back. Okay, I'll help you. And
I'll
it
be-
makes no sense on any level at all. But again, that's for me, that's what makes this movie dumb and therefore comforting.
Amazing. So I have vague memories of having watched this movie as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you've talked about this on the podcast, but I grew up as an army brat, so we would move quite a bit. And one of the big kind of things of army life, at least growing up in India, is that there are a lot of these social events and gatherings, parties and such. And
Mm-hmm.
usually what would happen is that the officers and, their significant others, they are all sort of in the main foyer or in like a kind of a garden outside with a bar and with formal dressing and waiters showing up, what have you. They'll put the kids in like a TV room somewhere
Oh, okay.
and put on whatever VHS was sort of the VHS of the time. So I have vague memories of watching this movie in that sort of setup
Oh, interesting.
and kind of just enjoying it with
Yeah.
other kids and what have you, and laughing at it or being scared by it too, because
Mhm.
it's still pretty young. So since then I had not watched this movie, and I watched it a couple of weeks ago once you put it
Yeah.
on the list, and I agree with everything you said and how silly it is, but I had a really good time.
Yeah.
Like,
So
this
that's the
is
thing. It's entertaining. Yeah.
unlike PV that I couldn't even watch like this.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed. And once again, it's ridiculous, but I find a lot of comfort in sort of the commitment.
Mhm.
Everybody is in on it,
Right,
every
right.
department, every actor. And we were having this chat last time about sort of what makes a B movie versus not. I think to me, it is that commitment part that elevates it from what I would call a B movie, which is just so atrociously bad that it's unwatchable.
Ah,
You
okay.
are laughing at the movie. And sure, I was laughing at it in terms of how ridiculous it is. And we touched on a bunch of things that are in that category. But I can't laugh at the commitment and the work that went into it, from frame A to frame Z. So,
Right.
which is what elevates it. And that's why I can watch it and enjoy it. Otherwise, if this was just badly made, badly done, and ridiculous, I would leave.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like a commitment to the bit almost. It's
Yeah.
like everyone in this, they're treating it seriously.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
because they're doing that, then it makes you can laugh at how bad it is. But if they knew it was bad and they weren't trying, because there are some movies you can tell are like, look, we need to make this some exploitation film and like, who cares? And if you put no effort into it, that's not as enjoyable because
No.
you're not getting that passion. It's like the passion and the commitment that sometimes even if it doesn't work, then it's still entertaining.
Yeah.
I think you hit it on it. It's about and I think that is what I enjoy about B movies. The ones at least I enjoy are the ones that are, so bad it's good, because the people did not think they were making a B movie.
No.
They thought they were making like, something that was going to blow the doors off everything. I mean, granted, Arnold was still a big star at the time. But the tone of this is like, there's no way anyone could have thought this was treated seriously, but hey, everyone did everyone was committed to the bit in this film, all the actors. And I think that is what makes it so entertaining, and a time capsule too of this type of film from that time.
Type of film. Yeah, totally. And I think there's something to be said about the pacing of it as well. Like, I think it moves so beautifully that it doesn't really give you that much of a chance to question it or think about it, because that's not the point. You're in for the ride.
Right.
Because if you start thinking about it, how can someone who looks like Arnold be a dad? Like that, just stop right there, from the opening frame. Like, just even that doesn't make sense. It's completely unbelievable, like it doesn't make sense in my mind, but they don't give it too much time. Like, we are off to the races right off the bat, and that's why it's super fun.
Yeah, totally. And not to compare this film to North by Northwest, but I do think that film too, to your point when you said the plot doesn't really make any sense, and it kind of doesn't, but that's not the point, because you're enjoying the film so much, because immediately stuff starts happening in North by Northwest, and that's a very brisk movie too. And I think, you're right about Commando too. It's like, it just goes from the second that, that first hilarious opening title sequence and this movie just going. And if you were to stop and think about it, you're like, this is dumb. And it's, well, yeah, I know this is dumb, but I'm enjoying it because it's moving so fast. It doesn't give you that time to kind of pause. So, okay, I guess I am comparing those two movies. I mean, Arnold's basically like Cary Grant at the end of the day.
I mean, different version of it, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And on the acting part, like everybody is at the same level. So, which also is sort of smart, which is why I don't call this a B movie, because you need some intellect and thoughtfulness to make something that actually works. Everybody's at the same level,
Right. Oh yeah,
and
totally.
in fact, there's some scenes that I'm like, Arnold, you were actually the most convincing with this line. Good job.
Yeah. Don't disturb my friend, he's dead tired. That's another one of my favorite ones too, when he's on the plane. But yeah.
Also, there are a lot of like similar dialogues, like from the Terminator franchise, like slight variations. Like Hasta la Vista shows up in the movie, and I
says I'll be back at one point.
He says I'll be back.
He does.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because at that point he has the persona. This is a year after Terminator, so
it's
he already knows
hilarious
what he's
that
doing.
they would do that. Yeah.
I also find it funny because you mentioned you saw this movie basically as a kid, and the adults put a VHS tape on to just kind of like keep the kids quiet or calm down. Same thing for me, but as a 14-year-old, like, let's shut these teenage boys up on a bus. Here, just watch Commando. So exactly. I love how, like, we both were exposed to this film as just like a parenting tool, I guess, for lack of a better word, just to like shut up some boys or whatever. So it's funny.
Crazy.
I find that
totally
really funny.
Child inappropriate for sure.
Completely. Oh yeah, totally, completely. But it worked.
But it worked, I suppose. But that's why, like, I don't know what kids are doing now, but like back then, all that kids wanted was something to shoot with and play all these video games where you're essentially shooting people, and then we question, where does all this violence come from?
Right.
Well,
no,
there
totally.
you have it.
Yeah. No, it's a fun movie. Definitely enjoyable. Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now, or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.